everyone. Bodie Newcomb here. And I want to talk to you on this beautiful Thursday in June a little bit about one of the most famous comic characters in all of literature. And his name is Sir John Falstaff. Now, there's a lot to talk about regarding Sir John Falstaff. The most vague description I've heard about him is he's a fat old jolly man. Well, so is Santa Claus. Think of it this way. If Santa Claus were anything like Falstaff, this is what might happen. Santa would come down your chimney on Christmas Eve. He'd get stuck. It would take him 2 or 3 hours to get out, and then he would stumble into one of your windows and crush your plant. He's drunk. Then he would take his sack, his bag, and instead of leaving presents, he would fill it with the fine silverware that your mom's mom gave her 20 years ago. He would not only eat all the cookies and drink all the milk, he would go through your pantry and eat all the cookies and all the chips and all the Pop-Tarts and Funyuns, etc., etc. Then he'd go to the fridge and drink all the milk, all the beer, drink all your parents' holiday wine. Then as he would attempt to leave, he'd trip over your little puppy, Percy. And your little puppy Percy would scream. Your father would run out with a tennis racket, and Falstaff, Santa, would say, "Hey, I'm here to bring you good tidings, cheer, and this silverware." And your dad would go, "Wow, this silverware for me?" And then Falstaff would say, Santa would say, "Not only that, this wine I brought to you. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas." Your dad would think this guy's great. They'd start partying, hollering. Falstaff would end up with your father's tennis racket playing air guitar to maybe AC/DC's Highway to Hell. Everything would turn into a party. They would love the guy. Then Falstaff would stumble on down the road, and everybody would talk about what a great, funny, jolly old man Falstaff was until they realized they had been had. If I were to have a barbecue, let's say I had a barbecue last night, invited a couple friends over, barbecued some burgers. My friend Sir John Falstaff shows up, and it immediately becomes a party. He would hold court. He would make us all laugh. He would dance and sing and do little skits and improvisations with all of us. Be a great party. I would probably get up this morning, come out to do some gardening at 2:15 in the afternoon, and Falstaff would still be in my backyard, maybe laying on the ground or on this couch, sleeping. I'd have to wake him up, and he would stumble away. And the scene might look something like this. The aftermath. And then I would get a text. I'd get a text tonight, and it would say, "Bodie, I'm so sorry for behaving like I did, turning your backyard into a complete disaster, all the trash I left, the empty bottles. I'm really sorry. I'm going to clean up my act. I promise I will be a better man and clean my act up. Please forgive me. It won't happen again. And I'll think, are you kidding me? My wife will say, he's a great guy, bring him back. I'll bring him back for the next barbecue, and guess what? It would happen again. Falstaff, some of the words or phrases that I've heard to describe him. Oh, I happen to have right here. Endless wit, the colossal image of human freedom, the Socrates of Eastcheap, philosopher of Eastcheap. And Eastcheap was filled with these seedy bars, one of them being the Boar's Head Tavern, which Falstaff hung out with his friends. And they were described as rogues, vagabonds, rascals, drunks, thieves, and on and on. The embodiment of truth. As we get into Falstaff and as you read the plays and more about his character, Falstaff often makes commentary on life and politics, and he pushes the envelope, and he speaks the truth. He says oftentimes, he has no filter, he says oftentimes what people think but aren't afraid to say. He'll say it for them. He's the king of exaggeration. He is the master of rationalization. He is freewheeling vulgarity. The lord of misrule, the expert of innuendo, a clown and a swinger, a bombard with words, a scam artist, larger than life. What does that mean? What does larger than life mean? He is made up of Falstaffian proportions, Falstaffian dimensions, a rebel, a braggart. He is an adorable fool. Adorable. Now, I mentioned that he and his friends were braggarts, drunks, whoremongers, thieves, scoundrels, rebels. The thing about Falstaff is that he is likable, lovable, the adorable fool. I'm going to talk a little bit today about one of Falstaff's speeches in Henry IV, Part 1. And in this speech, let me set the scene first. He and his friends, Hal, who we'll talk about, Poins, Bardolph, Peto, and Gad's Hill, are out to rob a group of wealthy travelers on this dirt road. Hal and Poins decide to play a joke on their friend Falstaff. And it's the first part of a two-part joke. In this first part, what they're going to do is they're going to hide his horse. And so Falstaff has to lumber along this hilly dirt road on the outskirts of town, and they're going to hide his horse because they can't wait to see and hear the stories, the exaggerations that Falstaff tells later on back at the tavern. It's going to be a hoot for these guys to witness this. After they've hidden his horse, and after the group of wealthy travelers has been robbed, they are in turn going to show up disguised themselves as robbers and rob Falstaff and his group. Make sense? Am I clear? I think I am. So, that's where we are. The speech that I'm going to talk about today, is Falstaff on his way realizing that his horse has been hidden, stolen. Now let's go back. If you're going to work on this monologue, and I don't like to use the word work on a monologue. I don't want to look at a monologue as working. If you're preparing a speech as an actor, a young performer, it should be something you desire to do. You have to want to do this. It shouldn't be, oh, I've got to work on this monologue. It should be a good thing, a positive thing, to research, to study. You've heard, the journey is the best part. The rehearsal is my favorite part of the process in preparing for a show, building a character. Have fun with this. Make big choices. Research the play. Read the play at least once. Any word, phrase, reference that you are unsure of or that you don't know, look it up. Look it up. And I'm talking about not only vocabulary words that you don't know, quite unsure of what the meaning is, references to artwork, references to politicians, to biblical characters, biblical figures, places. I learned more about history, world history, in college, reading the classic works, Shakespeare, than I did in my world history class. So look up anything you don't know. The ins and outs of the character. Big choices, big choices. Falstaff was huge. This mountain of flesh. He squashed, he shattered all convention. He was opinionated. And in the first two scenes where we first meet Falstaff in this play, Henry IV, Part 1, here are a couple of the actual descriptions of Falstaff, just in the first two scenes. The first time we meet him, he is called Sir John Sack and Sugar. Sack, sweet Spanish wine. Chops, fat face. Monsieur Remorse, fat-witted, fat rogue, fat guts, fat-kidneyed rascal, tub of lard. So it's safe to say that Falstaff was a very fit individual. Not. So here we go. In this scene, we've set the stage. Falstaff's lumbering down this dirt road to prepare for the robbery. Can't find his horse. His horse has been stolen, hidden. And another thing to think about is if Falstaff is this big, if he's drunk or hungover, if his clothes are too tight, if he's sore, if he's arthritic, how does he even get on a horse? The imagery, the pictures, a whole other world into itself. Think of these things. Picture this guy, huge mountain of flesh, trying to get on a horse with his weapons and his bags and his belt, and what would that look like? Would he pull it up to a big rock and try to saddle up to it that way? Make choices. Okay? So I'm going to pull the text, I'm going to look at this monologue, and we'll go line by line. So, before I talk about the text, you need to know of the relationship between Falstaff and Hal, who becomes King Henry V later on. Okay, I'm not going to tell you what happens to Falstaff later on, because you are going to read both of the Henry plays and Merry Wives, all right, of Windsor. Uh, Falstaff was sort of a surrogate father to Hal. He loved him. They loved to banter and play jokes on each other, and oftentimes Hal would one-up Falstaff in. He was a little more evil in his jokes about Falstaff than Falstaff was to Hal. Okay? If you can grasp that. Hal really got to Falstaff in some of this wordplay, but they can match each other pun for pun, and they love doing it. Let me look at this text, and we'll go line by line and just talk about it. I'll talk about it because you're not here. You can't talk about it. You can say things as you're watching me talk about it, but I won't hear you because you're over there and I'm over here. Anyway, here we go. Falstaff's horse has been hidden. He's on the road by himself. He's tired. He was worn out. Might be drunk, might be hungover, might be stuffed to the gills with 3 plates of chicken. I am accursed to rob in that thief's company. What does that mean? I am accursed to rob in that thief's company. Accursed. Does it mean cursed? I hate robbing with this guy. I detest robbing. I detest stealing with this other guy that steals. And when you're going over this speech, think about really punching and hitting the hard sounds, the consonants, the verbs, the action words. Okay? Hit those. I am accursed to rob in that thief's company. The rascal hath removed my horse and tied him I know not where. Horse is gone. He's taken it. I don't know where it is. And I'll say this. The speech is actually written as Falstaff talking to or about another friend, Poins. Oftentimes, most of the time, the audience thinks he's talking to or about Hal. That's okay. Poins is the one that actually hid the horse. In fact, Hal comes in prior and says, I don't know where it is, Falstaff. Let me go find it. He takes off because he and Poins are in on the joke. Now, who is Falstaff talking to? Himself, Poins, Hal, the audience. This play is a very serious play. History play. War, politics, kings, bloodbaths, fighting, honor. Huge theme in this play, honor. And with Falstaff, the audience has the opportunity to kind of take a breath, relax, laugh. There's levity. He gives them a break and he invites them in to his world. Oftentimes with a nod and a wink. Look at this. Don't you like this? Agree with this. Ha ha ha. Levity. Relax. Breathe. Again, it's an invitation for the audience. They're kind of like these voyeurs of what's happening with Falstaff's mind and thinking, and right? Okay. And you can pick out, there's an audience here, and they love this stuff. They love to be included. I mean, they're included, they're part of the show anyway. It's a collective experience for everyone involved. But is it to one guy? Is it to this lady? These kids? Where are they? Don't be vague. Okay? Details, specifics. If I travel but 4 foot by the square further, I shall break my wind. If I travel but 4 foot by the square further a foot, I shall break my wind. If I walk just 4 more feet by the square is a measuring tool. If I walk just 4 more feet, I shall break my wind. I'll be tired, I'll be out of breath, but also, what is that a play on? Fart. Okay? Falstaff. Don't play the obvious here, it's written. All right? Well, I doubt not but to die a fair death for all this, if I escape hanging for killing that rogue. Which means, you know, I'll die like a regular guy dies if I don't kill this guy first and get hung for it. You know, I'm either going to kill this guy, they're going to hang me for killing this rogue, or I'll die an old man. What he's saying. And by the way, he calls him a rogue 3 times in this speech. I have forsworn his company hourly any time this 22 years, and yet I am bewitched with the rogue's company. So, what he's saying, Falstaff is saying that he has given up on being with this guy every hour for the last 22 years. He said, I'm done with you, but yet I am bewitched or drawn in by this rogue. So although I've given up on him, I still want to be with him. And the interesting word here, bewitched, has he have a spell cast over him? Potions, he talks about medicine potions later on. Does it have to do with alcohol? All these things. Think about all these things. He's forsworn every day this guy's company, but yet he is bewitched by him. Okay? And these 22 years is another little hint that this speech is directed at Poins and not Hal, because at this point in the story, Hal is still a teenager. Okay, he's not 22 years old. Falstaff is a man in his 50s, 60s. Poins is 22, 20 years, and Hal is probably about 16 or so. All right? If the rascal have not given me medicines to make me love him, I'll be hanged. Medicines, potions. What kind of medicines or potions did Poins give him to make him love him? Did he? Is this all a figment of Falstaff's imagination? Is this an excuse? Is this a rationalization to the audience? Alcohol, what? It could not be else. I have drunk medicines. If the rascal have not given me medicines to make him love him, I'll be hanged. It could not be else. I have drunk medicines. He did give me potions. He does make me love him. Or am I just drunk? Oftentimes he believes his own lies. And he's the master of exaggeration. One of his qualities that the audience loves. God, he's going this far? Wow. I can't believe he said that, but I think he believes it. I'm starting to believe it. Points! How? A plague upon you both. Bodolf! Peto! I'll starve ere I rob a foot further. I'll starve ere I'll rob a foot further. So he's screaming for Bardolph, Poins, Ha, Pito. He'll starve if he robs a foot further. I can barely move. I'm 300 pounds, and I will starve to death if I have to walk another foot here. Bit of an exaggeration. And 'twere not as good a deed as drink to turn true man and leave these rogues. I am the veriest varlet that ever chewed with a tooth. And 'twere not as good a deed as to drink to turn true man and leave these rogues. I am the veriest varlet that ever chewed with a tooth. It's beautiful. If I don't make the decision to become an honest man, if I don't change my ways and get rid of these guys, I am the veriest varlet that ever chewed with a tooth. I am the worst scoundrel ever. Veriest varlet. I love that alliteration. Play with that. The veriest varlet that ever chewed with a tooth. This is fun. 8 yards of uneven ground is 70 miles afoot with me, and the stony-hearted villains know it well enough. 8 yards and uneven ground is 70 miles afoot with me. 8 yards, uneven ground, is 70 miles. So 60 and 10 miles. 8 yards is 70 miles on foot with me. If I have to walk over there past that camera, it's going to be like walking 70 miles. Come on. A little bit of exaggeration there. And the stony-hearted villains know it well enough. A plague upon it when thieves cannot be true to one another. Well, it sucks if thieves cannot be. You can't trust another thief. Really sucks if I steal something with somebody, but I can't trust the guy I'm stealing with. They whistle. A plague upon you all! Give me my horse, you rogues. 4 times he says it. Give me my horse and be hanged. What happens? There are a couple of little videos you can check out. One of them is Orson Welles on Falstaff. He played the character. He directed it. He's a wonderful actor, director. Check it out. Orson Welles on Falstaff. Another one, Anthony Shear on Falstaff. He also played the character, and he also has a book, which was recommended to me a few years ago by John Walcott, The Year of the Fat Knight. It's kind of like a diary of when Sir Anthony Shear played Falstaff. Great, great book. One other book, Falstaff, Give Me Life. Give Me Life by Harold Bloom. Great reading. Check them out if you can. So, have fun with this piece. Read the play and love it. And this is Bodie signing out. Love your life.